Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got a great one lined up for you. And XRP is at 93 cents. Pulling back, taking a breath, or are we dropping in price, and will we ever come back? We're going to discuss it, and I think you're going to like it. We're also going to take a look at Thinking Crypto. Shout out to Tony, who did an amazing interview, great conversation rather, with Tom Emmer from the House of Representatives. We're going to take some of those excerpts and take a look at them and hear his point of view. And now this is a guy who knows a lot about crypto, and that bill that just passed the U.S. Senate is headed on over to where they are. So let's go ahead and roll this beautiful footage and find out what's going on, because the U.S. dollar coin from Circle just may well be the digital dollar for the United States. Roll that beautiful intro.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradleyAbove, and everything that we're talking about here today. 1.819 trillion, about 70 or 80 billion, left the market since this morning, just about 4 hours ago. So that'll show you what's going on with the market right down. It's down about 6.29% for the cryptocurrency market cap. Overall, Bitcoin is at 43,000, slipping about 5.17%. Ethereum down now under 3,000 at 2,900 plus. And Cardano now at $1.69, off from $1.80 this morning. And XRP now was $1.08 overnight or yesterday evening, and now we are at 93 cents this morning. Let's go ahead and look at the range of price for XRP. 92 cents is the low end of the range right now, where we're sitting right now in price, and we're looking at 108 is the peak in the top side of the XRP price range as well. Now, we are going to hear from technical analysts before we get out of here, and I happen to feel like this is temporary, but that is my feeling. I don't read charts or what have you, but we're going to hear from CoinsKid, and we're also going to hear from Crypto Bull 2020 today before we get out of here. But right now, let's go ahead and roll into this news. Chris Brummer makes this comment, and I feel it's very significant here. It says CFTC is indispensable in this conversation on the regulation of crypto exchanges. Chris Giancarlo and Quintez from the CFTC currently right now are correct that it's not a partisan or ideological issue. It's just kind of how the law works. Come on in, Dr. Brummer. Yeah, guys, if you haven't seen Cryptonaires, the movie, Dr. Brummer is in the film, and he is amazing in it, as everyone else who's in the film. Please go check it out at cryptoperformance.io, and you can just put in an email and watch the film for free. All right, so looking right here, this is just letting me know and everybody else know that the CFTC does play a huge role in this. I showed as recently as yesterday the fact that in 2018, a federal judge had laid down the law that all virtual currencies, cryptocurrencies, were to be regulated by the CFTC, and that was that at the time. Now, we do see the lawsuit with the SEC versus Ripple. It does appear they're not in their own lane, but nevertheless, we're going to get that straight at some point. And the reason we are, because we have great people like Tom Emmer in the House of Representatives who absolutely understands crypto and blockchain to a great degree. And if you haven't seen the interview with Tony from Thinking Crypto with Tom Emmer that just came out, I highly encourage you to watch the whole thing. Shout out to you, Tony. It's your celebration, my friend. What a fantastic conversation this is. And I highly suggest you go watch the entire interview, but we're going to take a couple excerpts out of this that I think we need to know about. One is the opinion of Tom Emmer about the Token Taxonomy Act versus the Securities Clarity Act. Now, the Token Taxonomy Act was architected by Ron Hammond with Warren Davidson's office and Warren Davidson, and that has been out since, I believe, 2019. Now, I love both of these pieces of legislation that are being proposed or have been proposed in the past. Now, we'll see what goes on with it, and it's obvious that, Tom Emmer favors the Securities Clarity Act, and he will tell you why. But listen to this right here. Let's start with this clip right here.
His token taxonomy bill, I believe, paints with too broad a brush. I think the Securities Clarity Act, which creates a new definition for investment contract and actually start to help our securities law evolve to actually take in this industry and allow for some clarity. So when you go out and you create these new opportunities, you know how you're going to be treated by the government. The problem I have with not creating a new definition and trying to model the existing laws, I shouldn't say model them, I would say redesign existing law to actually apply to the current technology and opportunity, I think is a much better way to go about it rather than trying to create a new broad brush. Look, I'm a lawyer. This is where Ward and I are different. I'm not interested in full employment for lawyers. I got no problem with lawyers. Unlike most people, you love your lawyer when you need him, right?
Right.
But we
And there it is right there. So he feels like the Token Taxonomy Act is a little too broad for his taste, and that's where the Securities Clarity Act comes in. Now, very quickly, let's just highlight a few things, right? So this, just looking at this right here, is in fact the Securities Clarity Act, and it says in here the underlying assets sold pursuant to these arrangements are frequently not themselves inherently securities as defined in Section 2A of the Securities Act, and like other assets sold pursuant to investment contracts in the past, do not become securities as so defined merely because they are sold pursuant to an investment contract. Now, this has been the point from me and where I sit looking at all of this with the lawsuit with the SEC and Ripple. We know for a fact that they did a options contract with R3 when they were in working relationship together. And we know that because of the lawsuit for them to separate that agreement. We also know Greg Kidd had an options contract on a $1 billion float of XRP. The options contract is a security investment instrument. And what I love about the Securities Clarity Act is this right here, how it separates the underlying asset from the contract itself, which I believe is the rub for the lawsuit that we're involved in right now with the SEC versus Ripple. The complaint is that for the 7 or 8 years that the company Ripple sold over-the-counter sales in an unregistered security, which could be the investment option contracts that we're talking about with R3 and possibly other customers, right, and partners. This is, to me, I mean, okay, big deal. Pay the fine and let's move on. It wouldn't be the first time, and it's not like it's anything nefarious. It's what they've needed to do to get widespread adoption. That's why line 82 in the SEC lawsuit matters so much to me. And I believe this is it right here, if I can get it to load again, because I had it loaded earlier. I actually have, as a YouTuber, so many tabs open that the computer just is screaming trying to keep up. But again, just to highlight this, just for a reference here, why Ripple also undertook to achieve its goal of widespread adoption of XRP, exchanging XRP for non-cash consideration, right? That to me is doing the pre-allocation we've all talked about before, which is obviously what they've done. They even had an accelerator program where they incentivized different areas of industry because they had XRP, like $300 million worth or 300 million XRP, whatever it was, to pre-allocate to these different industries. It was an accelerator program. I mean, it was a way to prime the pump because the company was building the market infrastructure, and obviously people could use this money, I believe, XRP, to advance their causes and develop their business model, right, or business application. So, okay, so there's the Clarity Act. And by the way, here's the Token Taxonomy Act, which I love too, because the Token Taxonomy Act goes through in just 14 pages and the Securities Clarity Act is 5 pages. But I think there is a way for these things to work together, right? Whether it's a combined piece of legislation or whether both of these things may be modified to suit whoever all the parties involved voting would be happy. But I think a complement of both of these things could give this market a very, very solid foundation forward. Now, remember, while all this is happening, and we're going to go back, that USD and Circle have just filed for a federally chartered banking license, right? So This is key because we know USD coin quickly becoming the #1 coin against where Tether is for a private stable coin. It's #2. It will top it. And I think when it does, you may see the United States get behind that private company for that interactiveness of the public-private relationship to provide a U.S. digital dollar through the private sector. I mean, let's face it. And now I want to take you to that. There's another comment about that right here. And it is at this time marker. Let me move forward here and you can hear his thought on that notion as well. Here we go right here.
Make sure that whether it's our Treasury Secretary or our SEC chair or our Fed chair, they got to understand the United States of America, the government has never done something better than the private sector. Never. I will tell you right now, I don't care if it's even building a road or a bridge. Private sector does a much better job than the federal government would ever do. And the federal government should not be in business competing with its private citizens, especially in this area. But
and I think he's spot on. And that's why I keep talking about the idea of Circle and USD becoming a national crypto reserve bank or commercial bank, because I believe that he is describing the fact that you could see the private sector handle that obligation for the government. And you just regulate it, right? That's what I mean. Look, ultimately, we're in this space. We're seeing all of these things. When we come this far, and we know that as far as we've come, no matter how long you've been in this space, 2 weeks or 4 or 5 years or 10 years, I know that if you've been in this space for any measure of time, you are a speculator. That's why I have that in the title of my name on Twitter, right? Speculator, wild speculator researcher, right? Because, we're waiting for legislation to literally open up this market so we can watch innovation win or lose. That's what we're speculating on. The stuff that I hold in my portfolio, the stuff you hold in your portfolio, I've placed my bets. That's what I've done. I've placed my bets. I always say on this channel, I stack my pennies next to their dollars. That's right. The people that have brought the massive money into this space to build these projects. That's what I believe I've done. And it's not financial advice, but that's a discipline I built for myself. And this is how early we are. We're still in the speculative market. Utility is not driving this market. Let me take you to another point in this and we'll go back to the interview here. By the way, this whole interview is remarkable, Tony. Fantastic. Shout out to you, my friend. Let's see here. Let's start right here where they actually talk about, Tony asked Tom Emmer about the lawsuit, but obviously he can't talk about the specific details, but listen to what Tom Emmer says. Now, this is a guy who's at the House of Representatives, huge advocate for crypto. He is going to educate a lot of people in the House of Representatives about this bill that's coming over that's got the bad verbiage in it, and he's well aware of it. But listen to what he says about the lawsuit itself.
Lawsuit situation.
Well, I got to be careful, right? It's I practiced law before I went into elected office, and you really should refrain from commenting on in detail on what a court is charged with trying to resolve. Right? You've got the government and the folks at Ripple are trying to resolve the disagreement. You point out accurately, Tony, that the resolution could have some significant ramifications on the marketplace. But that's a great example of legislation through enforcement instead of the way we should be doing it, which is elected leaders like myself should be sitting down with the industry, with you and your colleagues, and saying, all right, what's the answer to this question? I mean, by the way, a great example, because Gensler has been very disappointing to me recently. Based on his comments, I'm afraid that this is going to be more of the same. But Jay Clayton wasn't much better. He's brilliant too. Jay Clayton is a brilliant guy, and I had hoped for more help in this area from these leaders, and they just didn't give it to us. Brian Brooks, on the other hand, who was at the OCC, phenomenal forward thinker, thoughtful. He was easy to work with. We need more people like Brian Brooks in these positions that are actually educating members of Congress as to how we might solve these problems before we have litigation like litigation you're talking about. So
he literally describes pretty much why we're at a crossroads with the SEC in a lawsuit, right? It's the enforcement it's regulating through enforcement, instead of getting a actual framework in place where everyone can just follow along and know what they need to do. That's where we are. There is this lack of confusion here. But listen, we're all a little bit crazy to be in this space, right? And nobody says it better than BitBoy right here. Shout out to DAI for the clip. Let's listen to this because he lays it down. He thinks we were all nuts, but now he's right in the boat with us.
I'm going to say this every day probably when we talk about XRP. The key here is Ripple Net. The key here are the products that Ripple is offering. XRP is integrated into that technology. People say, well, why can't you just create a software that all the banks can use together? It's very difficult. It's extremely difficult, and Ripple has solved that problem. It's solved. They're coming out with the products. XRP is now integrated in this. The banks slowly but surely are starting to use this. Something 2 years ago I would have told you was crazy.
And you know what? And the reality is that if the banks are going to use all of this, because I think BitBoy is absolutely right. We go over this all the time, right? Ripple has achieved these things. In fact, the SEC even believes that they achieved widespread adoption with XRP through non-cash consideration, which is option contracts. I believe they've achieved that goal with some of the largest central banks and financial players around the world even, and governments, right? So, at the end of the day here, all of this, for it to work, we have to have the proper legislation that recognizes this new technology for which will move value of the world across its new networks. You have to define it. Cryptopolis, shout out to him. We used to do shows together all the time, every Friday. And I hope you're doing well, my friend. And I have to say, he said it best. You can't legislate what you haven't, or you can't regulate what you haven't defined. You can't regulate what you haven't defined. And that's where this legislation comes in. And that's what makes us all a little bit crazy, or at least feel that way at times, because we know that Ripple's done all this work developing XRapid and XCurrent and turning all these programs together into a RippleNet solution and building an enterprise solution for the fourth industrial revolution that moves the internet of value for the world. They've done it. Or maybe we're just a little touched.
I thought the XRP army was nuts. And be honest, y'all are a little nuts. Let's let nice words here. Y'all are a little crazy. But guess what? We like it. So am I. Yeah.
I gotta be honest, I love BitBoy. This cat's awesome. And I love that he's turning people on to XRP that would never know about it otherwise. So shout out to you, BitBoy, no doubt about it. We're a little bit nuts is right. And we're a little bit nuts to think that we could be at where we are now at the 90-some cent level and then be chasing down $8.39 sometime in the incoming months or weeks, or who knows? $13.33 plus. This is from Coins Kid, who is an amazing technical analyst. If you're not following him, you should. And this guy, Crypto Bull 2020, who told us in the next 9 or 10 days we could see a $2.50 XRP. Also telling us in the last hour or two here that we should know that there is XRP is now forming a bull flag. This is still a continuation pattern. Let it play out and enjoy the ride. So when I look at these prices and I see these things, and I understand that the legislation, albeit some of the verbiage is not correct in it, is now headed to the House. I see Tom Emmer. I understand that he is a leader. He's going to get what needs to be done to the extent of their power there. Ripple is going to continue to roll out what they've been doing because they continue to do it. The SEC case will end at some point. I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. When the SEC lawsuit ends, XRP, the digital asset, will be the most compliant digital asset on planet Earth. And you have but one question to ask yourself. Where's all the big money going to place their bets when they realize that too? That's going to do it for me. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Share with somebody you know. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Make sure you check out Link 2, ladies and gentlemen. They're amazing. Ripple, Kraken, Uphold, Link 2, Standard Cognition, Automation Anywhere, Bloomreach, Tilium, Zipline, and Novium's already sold out. Impossible Foods, ThoughtSpot, Carbon, Blockchain, Coin Investors. Let me tell you something. These are all great products, and there's a reason that they keep selling out. And you need to keep your eyes peeled for this. And if you're not sure what to do, contact them and register. They'll let you know. That's going to do it for me. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Check out all the links in the description box. They are products and services I use each and every day. And I'll catch all of you on the next one.